excuse me, as we're talking about love, we need to understand, can love be attached to things? Right? And the answer is yes. In the sense of that, when you love, you give. Right? You give as God gave. Right? But God didn't have to give so much. As some people are saying, well, I don't get anything from God. But every day we get something because He woke us up. Right? Even when we were asleep, He was giving us oxygen and the body was active. He made us. So even before God even gave us anything, as it were, we had a whole lot. Do you know that? And people who have this kind of mindset, like what I'm telling you about, they are grateful every day to God. God doesn't have to put a cell phone in their hand or put a $10 in their pocket or give them this or that. They are grateful to God every day. Because they know if it wasn't for His mercy, they wouldn't wake up today. Right? He gave you life and health and strength. And they understand that all that we have belongs to Him anyway. Because He first gave. But I'm saying He set an example. So, sometimes some people now, because you are giving, they are receiving. Right? And Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive. So if everybody should give as God gave, then love would be a wonderful thing. Would be a wonderful thing. Because He gave the best that He had and all that He could ever give just to save us. Right? So what is our attitude towards giving? Yes, giving. But you have people come to there and they tell you like, oh, God needs $1 million or He needs $10 million. Okay? And when you have given all of that money, it's going to sit in the bank. And maybe one or a few people have access to it who are using it. Right? And God never even sent no angel down there to monitor that money. Because it really has nothing to do with it. You never give messages like that to people. Right? Messages that come like that, they are lies. You know what I'm saying? God, you notice how God operates, right? Right? You notice how He operates, right? As I mentioned that, let's look at this verse here in 1 Timothy chapter 6. And this verse, excuse me, sometimes misquoted, right? And it says, okay, it says here, for we brought, it says here, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. But they that will be rich fall into temptation. Okay, I'm down at verse 9, sorry. And a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So, even money is mentioned with love. Some people say money is the root of all evil, but it's not the money, because the money by itself can't do anything. It's just like a stone arm or the grass outside or a tree. It can't do anything, right? It's the love of the money that creates the problem, right? And so people get engaged with loving of things, and that's where you find evil begins to come in, because that love, right? Just like when you have an animal like a snake, who can change its color, right? A lizard can be in a tree and it can change its color. Some of these creatures to be like whatever that scene is, or the tree, the color of the bark. So it is. so it is. That love changes itself to lust. That's why the Bible said they're coveted after. When something is in covetousness, it's gone from God. Right? It's no longer love. It seeks to gratify its carnal or its natural desires. And that's what it's doing. And so the scripture said, the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that somebody would not think about, if you're getting a job, you want to know, well, how much it pays. Of course, because you're working and you're giving your service, and you might say to yourself, well, I think I should be paid at least $25 an hour, right? And the person might say, well, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour. You might have to consider to yourself whether you really want to work for that or not. But it might be that you might still take the job, because maybe you don't have another one, or maybe you said, well, maybe later on they might make more money and you can get better, right? But the money plays an important part in our livelihood or our life every day, but it's not something for us to get attached to, okay? The scripture said we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out, right? Nothing out. So even if like the Egyptian king, they bury him in a casket of gold, it didn't make a difference because he didn't know it was a casket of gold, right? It didn't make a difference. You can't take it with him, because when his breath goes forth, the Bible says he returneth to the earth, in that very day his thoughts perish. So when we talk about things, people about things, and this world is so much about things, right? If you don't get things, you don't feel like you're loved. So what's going on? If you don't get things, right? So why is that? Because first of all, if you're going to love, you have to learn to love yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes you see people. I remember one day I'm coming from work, and when I went to my car, I see a number of guys sitting on the car almost like they want to break it down, right? I can't go to them and say, get out of my car like that, because because something really is that it's only a certain kind of people who do that, right? People who have respect for other people's property will never be sitting down on a strange person's car trying to break it down, because they're not used to that, right? They're not used to it, right? So people have respect for other people's property because they have property, or maybe they don't have property, but they were brought up properly to respect other people's things, okay? So I'm saying to you, things are part of what we have in life, but we must not get so attached to them that we forget what we should love. Alright? And so if we want things and we don't get them, then of course we can't love. What kind of love is that? Right? I'm telling you, as much as God has been showing us all his love, if God were to take back his love from us, you know what would happen, right? We'd all perish in a moment. But he kept his love there because he had a purpose, and the purpose was to do us good. Right? So love is something that is said to do good. To do good. That's what love is said for. To do good. To do good, to do good, to do good. Alright? And not to ingratiate ourselves, but to help somebody else. To do something for somebody else. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 13. The scripture said, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, does not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, right? Okay, and not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. I don't know if that's one of the hardest things to think about the scripture when you talk about thinketh no evil. I know I've been guilty of it. I don't know, because somehow in your mind sometimes you're thinking the wrong thing, the worst thing. And it might be true, it might not be true. But sometimes things happen that cause you to want to think, well, I wonder if so and so, and I wonder if so and so, right? And sometimes even when somebody is telling you the truth, you sometimes don't even still believe it, because sometimes what is in your mind preoccupies you, or maybe you heard this or you heard that, or maybe you even caught somebody in the act, for that matter, right? Doing something that could destroy the relationship you have with that person. The scripture says, charity rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. And the scripture said, let me go back to it, it said, suffereth long and is kind. I noticed that's something people don't even want to do today. Some of these new versions of the Bible, when they talk about the fruit of the Spirit, they took out the one that said long suffering. And I'm mentioning it because maybe you might be reading the Bible like that. Go to Galatians 5, right, and read down at the end there where it says long suffering, the fruit of the Spirit. And there are people today who took that out of the Bible. They took it out of the Bible. Be careful of those Bibles you're reading nowadays in this new translation, right? Because in order for you to serve God, you will suffer as Christ suffered. And the suffering might be long and it might be short. But if love requires you to suffer sometimes, and it's not because sometimes you can't do better, because sometimes you might have a child and say, for example, a mother who had a child, and when she had a child, there were mothers who had children in their womb, and the doctor said to them, oh, don't even bother to have this child, because this child is not going to be born properly, right? And the mother said, well, I'll take the risk, right? And there were times when the child came out excellent, but then there were times when the child came out having problems, just as what the doctor said. And even sometimes the doctor didn't know, but it came out that way, right? These mothers have a burden every day, right? They can't just send their children to school like everybody else and go to work, whatever. They have this every day, you know. I've seen these videos with these things, and they have to deal with that every day, right? Every day. You know, when the child should be dressing him or herself, they have to dress in the child, right? When the child should be just walking out to school, they have to put that child in a wheelchair or some kind of thing, push them around, right? When they go to the park, you know, they don't have time for themselves as others, right? And they might be their next door, their mother, or the next door neighbor might have their children running off to school every day. And she maybe can go to work and she can go to the store and all these things, but she's tied up with it. But the mother still does it because of love, right? She still does it because of love. Suffer it long. And maybe sometimes things turn around. There was an article I read in the Reader's Digest back in the 90s, and it said that this woman had a child that was handicapped and had lots of problems. But God so have it that she had another child that was born, able-bodied, everything fine. And that second child straightened out the first child, right? Because the first child saw him tie his shoelace, he did the same thing. Right? He saw him doing it, he did the same thing. Right? And he started doing the same thing what he sees his brother doing, or sister, and eventually he just pulled right out of it. Right? But God was merciful to them. Right? So sometimes the doctor said, get rid of that one, or get rid of that one. The mother said, no, I'm not going to do it. She might never have another child again, really. And she doesn't, but every child to a mother is precious, right? It doesn't matter. So charity suffered long. And sometimes things are happening and you don't like it. But if every time when something goes wrong, you're going to just give up, I don't know where else you're going to get in this world. Okay? Because things will go wrong. You know, the boss going to talk to you one day or some wrong way. You don't like, maybe you're going to talk to him one day, once you don't like, he doesn't like either, right? You're going to talk somewhere in your house that, you know, things will happen, as the Bible says, offenses will come. But be careful of how you handle them, right? And the scripture said, charity vaunteth not itself. Charity doesn't show off itself. Charity is humble. So love causes us to humble ourselves. And it says, go back to verse 6. It says, in verse 5 it says, not easily provoked. Right? And some of us, we get to a point where we say, we can't tolerate this person, we can't tolerate that one. And maybe somebody in our own home, it could be a spouse. I can't take this and I can't take that. But sometimes if you would examine ourselves, we would find that we have the capacity to deal with